Hello, and thank you for being here at Infidelity Tales Lab. Your presence makes sharing these stories worthwhile. Tell us, where are you tuning in from today? Big city? Small town? Share with us in the comments. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1, A Life Shattered. The steady beeping of hospital monitors pierced through Terrence Phillips' consciousness. His eyes opened to stark white walls and the antiseptic smell that permeated everything. A nurse adjusted his drip, her movements precise and practiced. "Mr. Phillips, you really need to rest," she said, checking his vitals. "Your body can't handle this level of stress." Terrence waved away her concern. "I have projects to manage," he muttered, reaching for his phone on the bedside table. "Deadlines don't care about exhaustion. The only deadline you should worry about is getting better," the nurse replied firmly, but Terrence had already tuned her out, scrolling through his missed calls. No messages from Beverly. Again, his wife's absence spoke volumes. Over the past months, she'd grown increasingly distant, citing endless work commitments and family obligations. The Beverly he knew would have rushed to his side the moment she heard about his collapse. That Beverly felt like a stranger now. The TV droned in the background as Terrence flipped through channels, seeking distraction from his thoughts. A peppy news anchor's voice caught his attention. And the luxury cruise liner, the Oceanic Majesty, embarked on its maiden voyage today, carrying some of the city's most prominent figures. Terrence's finger froze over the remote. There, amid the crowd of wealthy passengers, stood his parents, Hal Springer and Ethel Chandler, their faces alight with laughter. His younger brother Eric Barry lounged nearby, sporting his trademark smug grin. But it was the next shot that stopped Terrence's heart. Beverly, stood arm in arm with a tall, dark-haired man. She wore the sapphire necklace Terrence had given her on their 5th anniversary, her smile radiant as she gazed up at her companion. The man's hand rested possessively on her waist. The remote clattered to the floor. Terrence's hands shook as he grabbed his phone, pulling up his banking app. The transaction history loaded, revealing a recent charge. Oceanic Majesty Cruise Package, $25,000. His fingers moved automatically, dialing Beverly's number. Each ring echoed like a hammer blow to his chest. "Hey, honey," Beverly answered, her voice casual. "I'm stuck in traffic heading home from work. How are you feeling?" Terrence's grip tightened on the phone. "Where are you really, Beverly?" A pause. "I told you, I'm in traffic. The construction on 5th Street is terrible today." "Interesting." Terrence's voice remained eerily calm. "And this traffic, does it include ocean waves?" "What are you talking about?" Beverly's tone sharpened with forced confusion. "Enjoy yourself," Terrence whispered, ending the call before she could respond. Memories flooded his mind, unbidden. Growing up under his parents' oppressive expectations, where nothing less than perfection was acceptable. Architecture had been his escape, a way to build something beautiful from the rigid structure they'd imposed on his life. Then Beverly walked into his firm 7 years ago, her portfolio clutched in elegant hands, determination burning in her eyes. She'd been different then, hungry for success, passionate about design. They'd stayed late working on projects together, sharing takeout and dreams until the sun rose. She understood him, or so he thought. She knew what it meant to want more, to fight for recognition. When had that hunger turned to resentment? When had her ambition twisted into betrayal? The TV still played, showing Beverly laughing at something her companion said. Terrence reached for his laptop, pulling up search results for the Oceanic Majesty. Article after article praised its opulent amenities and exclusive guest list. The perfect playground for the wealthy to indulge their secrets. His phone buzzed. Kenny Blake, his best friend since college. "Terry, man, I heard about the hospital. You okay?" "I'm fine," Terrence replied automatically, his eyes fixed on Beverly's image frozen on the screen. "You sure? You sound off. Everything all right at home?" Terrence's laugh held no humor. "Let's just say I'm discovering some interesting family dynamics. Wanted to come by?" "No need." Terrence's voice hardened. "I have some planning to do." He ended the call, opening a new browser tab. The cruise ship's deck plans filled his screen as rain pelted the hospital windows. His family wanted a vacation? He'd make sure it was one they'd remember for the rest of their lives. If they want to play games, Terrence murmured, his reflection in the window morphing into something dangerous. I'll show them how it's done. He began taking notes, mapping out weak points and pressure spots. His architectural training had taught him that every structure had vulnerabilities, human ones most of all. By the time he finished, he'd identified exactly where to strike to bring their carefully constructed lies crashing down. The nurse returned, frowning at his elevated heart rate. Mr. Phillips, you really must rest. Terrence smiled, a cold expression that made her step back. Don't worry, I'll be getting plenty of rest soon. I have a cruise to prepare for. Chapter 2. The Web Widens. Mr. Phillips, I strongly advise against this, Dr. Martinez protested, watching Terrence sign the discharge papers. Your body needs time to recover. I've recovered enough, Terrence replied, his signature sharp and decisive on the forms. His suit, freshly delivered from home, fit perfectly, armor for the battle ahead. The drive home gave him time to strategize. Beverly's car sat in their driveway, a Mercedes he'd bought her last Christmas. Inside, he heard movement upstairs, the soft thud of items being packed. Beverly stood in their bedroom, folding designer clothes into a leather suitcase. She startled at his appearance in the doorway. Terrence, you're supposed to be in the hospital. Her hands fumbled with his silk blouse. I was just packing for a business conference in Chicago. Chicago? Terrence leaned against the doorframe, studying her face. Interesting choice of destination. Beverly's movements grew more agitated. It's an important meeting with potential clients. I told you about it last week. Did you? Terrence picked up one of her packed dresses, perfect for a luxury cruise. Must have slipped my mind. I've been distracted lately. Television's been interesting, though. Beverly's hands stilled. What are you implying? Nothing at all? Terrence's smile didn't reach his eyes. Just making conversation. How's Luis doing? The color drained from Beverly's face. I don't know what you're talking about. You're being paranoid again, seeing things that aren't there. This is exactly why I need space. You're always so controlling. Controlling? Terrence laughed, the sound sharp as broken glass. Is that what you tell Luis when you're together? That your husband's a controlling monster? Stop saying that name. Beverly slammed the suitcase shut. You're imagining things. This is exactly why I can't talk to you anymore. You twist everything. Across town, Luis Craig paced his sister's office, running fingers through disheveled hair. He knows something, Marissa. I can feel it. Marissa Lutz watched her brother from behind her private investigator's desk, her expression grim. What gave you that idea? Beverly said he mentioned my name. He's never done that before. Luis collapsed into a chair. What if he saw the cruise footage? Then you're in trouble. Marissa pulled up Terrence's file on her computer. I've been researching him since you started this affair. He's dangerous, Luis. Not violent, worse. He's methodical, patient, and brilliant. If he knows and he's not confronting you directly, he's planning something. What should I do? Run? Marissa's voice held no humor. Run far and fast. Because if he's playing nice right now, it means he's setting up something much worse. The doorbell at his parents' house chimed ominously. Hal opened the door, his face falling at the sight of his eldest son. Terrence, we weren't expecting you. Clearly. Terrence pushed past him into the house. Given that you're supposed to be on a cruise right now. Ethel emerged from the kitchen, wringing her hands. Sweetheart, we can explain. Can you? Terrence's voice cut like ice. Can you explain why my entire family is on a cruise with my wife and her lover? Can you explain why none of you thought to tell me? We didn't want to hurt you, Hal attempted. Hurt me? Terrence advanced on his father. You've been watching Beverly destroy our marriage for months and said nothing. You chose to protect her instead of your own son. It's complicated, Ethel pleaded. No, Mother, it's actually very simple. You're either with me or against me. And you've made your choice very clear. Later that night, over dinner, Eric cracked under his brother's relentless questioning. She promised to help my career, Eric blurted out. Said she knew people in the industry, that the cruise would be full of potential contacts. I needed a break, Terry. You know how hard it's been. So, you sold me out for a networking opportunity? Terrence's voice remained deadly calm. My own brother. It wasn't like that. I thought maybe if you found out naturally. Naturally? Terrence stood, towering over his brother. Like finding out on national television that my wife is parading around with another man while I'm in the hospital? That kind of natural? In his office downtown, Roman Hewitt's fingers flew over his keyboard, diving deep into Beverly and Luis's digital lives. The hacker's screens glowed with recovered emails and messages. "You're not going to like this, boss," Roman said, sending files to Terrence's secure server. "They've been planning this for months. The cruise is just the beginning. They have a whole future mapped out together." Terrence scrolled through the evidence, his expression hardening with each revelation. Then he saw it, a recently filed life insurance policy in his name, with Beverly as the sole beneficiary. "Interesting timing," he murmured, forwarding the document to his lawyer. "Very interesting indeed." The next day, he surprised Beverly with an Hermes handbag, the one she'd been eyeing for months. "Consider it an apology," he said smoothly, watching her reaction. "I know I've been difficult lately. You deserve nice things." Beverly's hands trembled slightly as she accepted the gift. "Thank you. This is unexpected. I'm full of surprises lately." Terrence kissed her cheek, noting how she flinched. "Enjoy it." At his regular coffee shop, a woman approached his table. "Mind if I join you?" Terrence looked up into striking green eyes. "Do I know you?" "Not yet." She sat uninvited, extending her hand. "Shauna Willis. I couldn't help overhearing your phone conversation earlier. About betrayal. You make a habit of eavesdropping on strangers?" "Only when they're planning something interesting." Shauna's smile held secrets. "I might have some advice about handling treacherous people. If you're interested." Terrence studied her carefully. "What makes you think I need advice?" "Experience." She pulled out a folder, sliding it across the table. "I know all about Beverly's plans for your fortune. Question is, what are you going to do about it?" That evening, Terrence booked his ticket for the Oceanic Majesty's next voyage. His cabin selection wasn't random. He chose one strategically located near Beverly and Luis's suite. As he confirmed the reservation, his phone buzzed with a text from Beverly. "Working late again. Don't wait up." "Oh, I won't," Terrence murmured, finalizing his booking. "I have other plans." Chapter 3. Setting the stage. The Oceanic Majesty lived up to its name, a floating palace of glass and steel rising from the harbor. Terrence observed the boarding process from behind designer sunglasses, watching Beverly and Luis disappear into the ship's luxurious interior. "Your suite is ready, Mr. Phillips," the concierge announced, leading him to his carefully selected cabin. From his private balcony, Terrence had a perfect view of the ship's main promenade, and more importantly, of Beverly's frequent walks with Luis. "Quite a coincidence running into you here," a familiar voice said behind him. Terrence turned to find Shauna Willis lounging in a deck chair, martini in hand. "Coincidence?" His eyes narrowed. "I don't believe in those anymore." "Smart man." Shauna sipped her drink. "Your wife just ordered champagne to her suite. Celebrating their escape, I imagine." "For now." Terrence's phone buzzed. A message from Roman confirming his surveillance systems were in place throughout the ship. Below deck, Beverly clutched Luis's arm as they passed a familiar-looking couple. "Did you see them staring at us?" "You're being paranoid," Luis replied, but his voice held uncertainty. "No one knows who we are here." Back in their suite, Beverly found a note slipped under their door. "Secrets have a way of surfacing at sea." She crumpled it in trembling hands. "Someone knows," she whispered. "They're watching us?" "It's probably just the staff playing games," Luis insisted, but he double-checked the door's lock. In the ship's entertainment office, Gilberto Craig reviewed Terrence's proposal. "This is unorthodox, Mr. Phillips. Consider it a special performance," Terrence replied, sliding an envelope across the desk. "One that requires absolute discretion. The things you're suggesting, they could cause quite a disturbance." "That's the point." Terrence's smile promised both reward and threat. "I trust you remember the Santiago project?" Gilberto paled slightly. "Of course. You saved my career. Time to return the favor." That evening, Beverly's phone chimed with a message from an unknown number. "Did you think I wouldn't find out?" She dropped the phone like it burned her. "Luis," she called out. "It's happening again." But Luis was preoccupied with his own problems. His access card to the ship's exclusive venues had mysteriously deactivated, and their dinner reservations at the premium restaurant had vanished from the system. "I don't understand," he complained to the maitre d'. "We confirmed everything yesterday. Our records show no such reservations, sir," the staff member replied coolly. "And unfortunately, we're fully booked for the next week." Hal and Ethel's arrival on the ship sent new ripples through the already troubled waters. They froze at the sight of Terrence lounging by the pool, his presence a silent accusation. "Son," Hal approached cautiously. "We need to talk." "Now you want to talk?" Terrence didn't look up from his book. "After months of lies? After watching Beverly destroy everything while you stood by? Please, father, tell me what could possibly justify that." "We were trying to protect you," Ethel interjected, her voice quavering. "Protect me?" Terrence finally looked up, his gaze arctic. "By protecting her? Did you protect me when you joined them on their little romantic getaway?" "It wasn't like that," Hal protested weakly. "Then enlighten me. What was it like?" Neither parent could meet his eyes. Terrence stood, towering over them. "That's what I thought. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a ship to explore." Later that night, in the ship's premium bar, Eric downed his fourth whiskey, liquid courage fueling his conscience. "I have to tell you something," he slurred, grabbing Terrence's arm. "About Beverly. This should be interesting." Terrence signaled the bartender for another round. She's been playing us all." Eric's words tumbled out. "Using me to cover for her. Making me lie to you. Said she'd introduce me to directors, producers, but it was all manipulation. And you fell for it. I'm so sorry, Terry. I was weak. Desperate." Tears welled in Eric's eyes. "My career was going nowhere, and she dangled these opportunities." "Save your tears," Terrence cut him off. "You're my brother. You were supposed to have my back." "I know. I'll do anything to make it right. Stay out of my way." Terrence's voice held no warmth. "That's how you make it right. Whatever happens next, you stay clear." On the ship's bow, Shauna found Terrence staring into the darkness. "Your plans are working. They're unraveling." "Good." Terrence didn't turn. "But it's not enough. I've learned something you should know." Shauna moved closer, lowering her voice. "Beverly isn't just running away with Luis. She's planning to fake your death." "Explain?" "Marissa Lutz. She's not just Luis's sister. She's a private investigator with connections to document forgers. Beverly hired her to create a paper trail." Terrence's hands gripped the railing. "My wife wants me dead. Not exactly dead. Just officially deceased. Enough to claim the insurance money without an investigation." A low chuckle escaped Terrence's throat, devoid of humor. "She always was ambitious." In their suite, Beverly paced frantically. Another delivery had arrived. A bouquet of black roses with a card reading, "Enjoy the ride." "Someone's toying with us," she hissed at Luis. "This isn't normal." "You're overreacting," Luis snapped, but his hands shook as he loosened his tie. "It's probably just the crew trying to spook the rich guests." No, this is different. These messages, the canceled reservations, those people staring. It's all connected." "Connected to what?" Beverly sank onto the bed. I think Terrence knows." "Impossible. He's in the hospital." "Is he?" Beverly grabbed her phone, dialing the hospital. After a brief conversation, she went pale. "He checked out days ago." "That doesn't mean anything," Luis insisted. "He's probably at home resting. You don't know him like I do." Beverly's voice trembled. "If he knows, if he's planning something, we're not safe." The night deepened, and Terrence stood alone on his balcony, watching Beverly and Luis argue through their suite's windows. His phone buzzed with updates from Roman. More evidence of Beverly's schemes, of his family's betrayals, all falling into place like pieces of a cruel puzzle. "Let the games begin," he murmured, raising a glass to the unsuspecting couple. Their paradise was about to become their prison, and Terrence Phillips would be their jailer. The moon hung high over the oceanic majesty as Act 1 drew to a close, the players all in position for the drama about to unfold. Beverly's paradise would soon become her purgatory, and Terrence would ensure that every moment of it was unforgettable. Chapter 4: The First Strike. Music from the masquerade ball drifted across the oceanic majesty's grand ballroom. Terrence adjusted his Venetian mask, observing Beverly and Luis through the crowd of costumed revelers. He approached the ship's head of security, Marcus Chun, with purposeful steps. "I have some concerning information about one of your guests," Terrence said, sliding a dossier across the security desk. Luis Craig's credentials deserve a closer look. Chun scanned the documents, his expression hardening. "These employment records, they're forged?" Among other things, Terrence's voice remained neutral. "I believe it's your duty to investigate potential security risks aboard the ship." On the dance floor, Beverly twirled in Luis's arms, her red gown catching the light. "Finally, a perfect evening," she sighed, unaware of the trap closing around them. Terrence materialized beside them, champagne in hand. "Quite the coincidence running into you here." Beverly stumbled, Luis's grip tightening on her waist. "Terrence? What are you—" "Don't let me interrupt." Terrence's smile carried poison. "It's a small world, isn't it? Especially at sea." He melted back into the crowd, leaving Beverly trembling. Across the room, Shauna executed her part flawlessly, engaging Beverly in seemingly innocent conversation. "You seem tense," Shauna observed, sipping her martini. "Feeling watched?" Beverly's hand flew to her throat. "What do you mean?" "Oh, nothing specific. But on ships like this, walls have ears. Secrets tend to surface." Meanwhile, Roman's message lit up Terrence's phone. Marissa Lutz spotted boarding at last port. "She's using an alias." Terrence smiled, another piece sliding into place. He'd been expecting Luis's sister to make an appearance. Through his network of paid informants among the crew, he began feeding Marissa breadcrumbs of misinformation. The evening's auction segment provided the perfect opportunity for the next phase. Gilberto Craig orchestrated a technical malfunction with the microphone system just as Luis was bragging to a group of investors. "Can't believe how easy it was to seduce her," Luis's voice boomed across the ballroom. "Rich husband works himself to death while the wife plays." The sound cut off, but the damage was done. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Beverly stood frozen, champagne glass slipping from her fingers. "Hal," and Ethel cornered Terrence near the bar. "Stop this," Hal pleaded. "Before someone gets hurt." "Hurt?" Terrence's laugh drew stares. "Like watching my wife parade around with her lover hurt. Like my own parents hiding their betrayal hurt. We were trying to protect. If you finish that sentence, Father, I'll make sure you regret it." Terrence's voice dropped to a whisper. "You chose your side. Now live with it." Eric, drunk and swaying, tried warning Beverly. "He's here, Bev. He knows everything. Don't be ridiculous." Beverly snapped, but her eyes darted around the room. "Terrence is home recovering. You're drunk. Am I? Or are you blind?" Eric laughed bitterly. "My brother isn't the type to forgive and forget. You should know that by now." Late that night, while Beverly and Luis attended a midnight buffet, Terrence slipped into their suite. He rearranged small items, a watch slightly out of place, a perfume bottle turned backwards, a drawer left partially open. Psychological warfare at its finest. They returned to find their sanctuary violated in subtle ways. "Someone's been here," Beverly panicked, checking her jewelry. "They touched our things." "You're being paranoid," Luis insisted, but his voice wavered. A knock at the door made them both jump. Marissa Lutz stood in the hallway, her expression grim. "We need to talk," she said, pushing past them. "About Terrence Phillips? What about him?" Luis paced nervously. "He's here. On the ship." Marissa pulled out her tablet. "And he's not just watching. He's hunting." "That's impossible," Beverly protested weakly. "Is it?" Marissa pulled up surveillance footage. "Because someone's been accessing ship systems, planting evidence, turning the crew against you. And guess who has the skills to do that?" Terrence watched through the hidden camera as panic spread across their faces. In his own suite, he pulled up files documenting Beverly's embezzlement, Luis's fraud, and Marissa's illegal activities. "Your brother's right about one thing," he murmured, composing an anonymous tip to ship security. "I don't forgive betrayal." Marissa stormed into Terrence's suite an hour later. "I know what you're doing." "Do you?" Terrence didn't look up from his laptop. "The accidents, the whispers, the sabotage, it's all you." "Prove it." Marissa slammed her hands on his desk. "I will. And when I do..." When you do what? Terrence finally met her gaze. Tell everyone how you help wealthy wives fake their husbands' deaths? How many insurance scams have you engineered, Ms. Lutz? She paled. How did you? I know everything. Terrence's voice could freeze flame. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to back off, or I'll make sure your entire operation comes crashing down. Your choice. Back in their suite, Beverly and Luis's relationship showed its first major cracks. This is your fault, Beverly screamed, hurling a glass at the wall. You said it would be simple. Seduce the lonely wife. Get her away from the controlling husband. Now look at us. Me? Luis grabbed her arms. You're the one who couldn't wait to jump into bed with me. Don't act innocent now. Outside their door, Terrence recorded everything, adding to his arsenal of destruction. Let them tear each other apart. It would make the final act so much sweeter. Phase 1 complete, he told Shauna later. Time to turn up the pressure. They're already cracking, she observed. Are you sure you want to push harder? Terrence's smile held no warmth. I'm just getting started. By the time this cruise ends, they'll wish they'd never heard the name Phillips. In their suite, Beverly stared at her reflection, remembering Terrence's whispered, "Enjoy yourself," from the hospital. Now she understood. It hadn't been acceptance. It had been a declaration of war. Chapter 5. Escalation. Gilberto Craig's network of staff members executed Terrence's instructions. Beverly and Luis's morning began with spoiled room service, carefully doctored with tasteless laxatives that sent them rushing to their bathroom. This isn't normal food poisoning, Luis groaned, doubled over in pain. Their attempt to visit the ship's spa ended with them trapped inside a malfunctioning sauna for 3 hours. When they finally emerged, drenched and dizzy, they found their dinner reservations at all premium restaurants mysteriously canceled. What do you mean, no record of our booking? Luis demanded at the 5th restaurant. We confirmed yesterday. The maitre d' shrugged. I apologize, sir, but your name isn't in our system. Perhaps try the buffet. Beverly grabbed Luis's arm as they walked away. Someone's doing this on purpose. These aren't coincidences anymore. In the ship's observation lounge, Shauna sat with Terrence, sharing her own story. He seemed perfect at first, she said, swirling her wine. Charming, successful, attentive. Then I discovered he'd been systematically draining my accounts, selling my assets, destroying my life piece by piece. What did you do? I survived, rebuilt. Her eyes hardened. But I learned betrayal demands payment. Speaking from experience? Terrence studied her carefully. Let's just say I understand the need for resolution. She leaned closer. But be careful. Revenge can consume you if you let it. Hal and Ethel attempted another intervention, cornering Terrence in the ship's library. They'd brought Eric as reinforcement. This has gone far enough, Hal declared. Beverly's threatening to call the authorities. For what? Terrence looked up from his book. Bad service? Unreliable reservations? Prove I had anything to do with it. We know it's you, Ethel pleaded. Stop this madness. We're your family. Family? Terrence's voice could cut diamond. Family doesn't conspire against their own. Family doesn't watch their son be betrayed and say nothing. You want to talk about madness? Look in the mirror. We made mistakes, Hal admitted. But this path you're on, it's destroying you. No, father. It's destroying them. And you're next. Marissa worked frantically in her cabin, trying to gather evidence against Terrence. A bug planted in his suite seemed perfect until she played back the recordings. Looking for something? Terrence's voice filled her headphones. Here's a travel tip. Next time you plant surveillance equipment, make sure your target doesn't know your methods. The recording continued with detailed accounts of her illegal activities, dates, names, amounts. Marissa ripped off her headphones, hands shaking. In their suite, Beverly discovered another note hidden in her lingerie drawer. You should have chosen better. She ran to the bathroom, retching. It's him, she told Luis. Terrence is here. He's watching us, playing with us. You're being hysterical, Luis snapped, but his eyes darted to the corners of the room. There's no proof. Proof? We're being systematically terrorized. Our reservations disappear. Our food makes us sick. People whisper behind our backs. And now, these notes. She grabbed his shirt. He knows everything. Then we fight back, Luis declared. I won't let him intimidate us. They planted stolen jewelry in Terrence's cabin, then reported a theft to security. But when officers searched his suite, they found nothing. The jewelry had vanished, replaced by identical replicas from the ship's gift shop. A misunderstanding, Terrence explained smoothly to security. Perhaps the stress of the cruise is affecting their judgment? The investigation turned toward Beverly and Luis instead, questioning their original claim. Another piece of their credibility crumbled. That evening, in the ship's main lounge, Beverly finally snapped. Spotting Terrence at the bar, she stormed over. Stop this, she hissed. Stop following us, stop sabotaging us. Sabotaging? Terrence raised an eyebrow. Like sabotaging a marriage? Or perhaps like sabotaging someone's life insurance policy? Beverly stepped back. What are you talking about? Ask your friend Marissa. I'm sure she can explain how faking deaths for insurance money works. He stood, towering over her. Oh, wait. She's probably busy destroying evidence right now. The lounge had gone quiet, other passengers watching the confrontation with avid interest. Beverly felt their stares, their judgment, their whispers. You're insane, she whispered. No, Beverly. I'm thorough. He smiled, the expression chilling her blood. And we're just getting started. Later, Shauna found Terrence on his balcony. The crew's talking. Stories about Beverly and Luis are spreading through the ship like wildfire. Good. Terrence didn't look away from the horizon. Let them feel what it's like to be exposed, humiliated, betrayed. Your brother tried to warn them today. Said they should leave at the next port. Eric should worry about himself. Terrence's voice hardened. He's not innocent in this. And what about closure? Shauna pressed. When is enough enough? When they've lost everything. Just like I did. Roman's update pinged on Terrence's phone. Beverly planned to file for divorce immediately upon returning, claiming emotional abuse. She'd already contacted lawyers, prepared statements, gathered witnesses to his supposed cruelty. She thinks she can paint me as the villain? Terrence laughed darkly. Then let's give her a real monster to fear. In their suite, Beverly and Luis's relationship continued to fracture under the pressure. We need to separate, Luis argued. Being together makes us an easy target. Separate? Beverly's laugh held hysteria. He'll pick us off one by one. Then what's your brilliant plan? Stay here and let him drive us mad. I don't know. Beverly hurled a vase against the wall. I don't know anything anymore. This was supposed to be our escape, our fresh start. Now it's turned into a nightmare. Unknown to them. Their entire conversation fed directly into Terrence's tablet, each word of panic and despair music to his ears. Their paradise was becoming their prison, exactly as he'd planned. The day ended with Beverly receiving a final gift. A photo album filled with surveillance pictures of her and Luis together, dating back months. On the last page, a simple message. Smiles hide lies, but cameras tell truth. She locked herself in the bathroom, sobbing, while Luis paced their suite like a caged animal. Outside, Terrence raised a glass to their misery, his revenge only halfway complete. Chapter 6, Breaking Point. Terrence's orchestrated emergency drill trapped Beverly and Luis on the ship's deserted stern deck. Security doors clicked shut, sealing them in place as the sun beat down mercilessly. This isn't a normal drill, Luis muttered, yanking futilely at the doors. We're the only ones here. Of course we are. Beverly's laugh bordered on hysterical. He planned this. He plans everything. Will you stop? Your paranoia is making everything worse. Paranoia? Beverly whirled on him. Look around. We're trapped like rats while my husband systematically destroys us. And you promised me freedom, luxury love. Instead, you've brought me nothing but ruin. Me? Luis grabbed her arm. You pursued me. All those late nights at the office. All those accidental touches. Those meaningful glances. You knew exactly what you were doing. And you were so noble, weren't you? A real knight in shining armor. Beverly jerked away. Tell me, how many other lonely wives have you rescued with your charm and promises? At least I'm not a gold digger plotting murder. Beverly slapped him hard. That was your idea. You and Marissa with your schemes about insurance and forged death certificates. I never wanted— Oh, please. You jumped at the chance to get rid of him. Terrence works so hard. He's under so much stress. No one would question it if his heart just gave out. Louise mimicked her voice cruelly. Face it, Beverly, you're just as guilty as I am. Hidden cameras captured everything, feeding directly to Terrence's tablet. He watched their masks crumble, revealing the ugly truth beneath. Shauna appeared beside him. You got what you needed. Almost. Terrence's eyes never left the screen. Watch. On the deck, Beverly crumpled against the railing. I hate you, she spat at Louise. I hate what you turned me into. What I turned you into? Louise laughed bitterly. You were already rotten inside. I just gave you permission to show it. At least I loved him once, Beverly whispered. You never loved anyone but yourself. And look where love got you. Trapped on a boat with a husband who wants to destroy us. The security doors suddenly opened. Beverly and Louise rushed through, only to find Terrence waiting in the corridor. Trouble in paradise? His voice dripped acid. Such a shame when trust breaks down. Louise lunged forward, fists raised. Terrence moved with deadly precision, catching Louise's arm and slamming him against the wall. Careful, Terrence murmured. Assaulting another passenger could get you confined to the brig. You're insane, Louise gasped. No. I'm just a man who doesn't tolerate betrayal. Terrence increased pressure on Louise's arm until he whimpered. Remember that. Shauna watched the confrontation with growing concern. You're pushing them to the edge. That's where truth lives, Terrence replied. In desperate moments, people show their real faces. In their suite, Beverly frantically packed her bags. We need to get off this ship. Next port, we run. And go where? Louise nursed his bruised arm. He'll find us. He's probably listening right now. Then what's your solution? Stay here and let him torture us. We fight back. I know people. Your people. Beverly laughed madly. Like your sister? Fat lot of good she's done. Face it, Louise. We're trapped in his web, and he's just getting started. Hal and Ethel made one final attempt to intervene. They cornered Terrence in his suite, determination in their stance. You've made your point, Hal insisted. End this now. We'll cut ties with Beverly, support your divorce. Support me? Terrence's voice could strip paint. Like you supported me when you watched her destroy our marriage? When you joined their little cruise of deception? We were wrong, Ethel pleaded. But this revenge, it's consuming you. No, Mother. It's freeing me. Terrence moved closer, his presence menacing. Justice comes with a price. You chose your side. Now you'll pay it. Beverly reached out to Terrence that evening, desperation overcoming pride. She found him at the ship's bar. Please, she whispered. Whatever you're planning, I'm sorry. I was lonely, confused. Confused? Terrence swirled his whiskey. About plotting my death? About stealing my money? About betraying our vows? I never meant to get caught. He finally looked at her, his eyes glacial. That's the only thing you're sorry about. The conversation ended when his phone buzzed. Notification of Beverly's intent to file for divorce, claiming abuse. Her lawyers had already drafted papers. Interesting timing, he commented, showing her the screen. Though I suppose faking my death would have been cleaner. Beverly fled, leaving Terrence to savor his drink and plan his next move. Louise, desperate for escape, attempted to bribe a crew member. I need off this ship. Tonight. Whatever it costs. The crew members seemed cooperative, until Terrence stepped from the shadows. Going somewhere? What followed was brutal and efficient. Security cameras mysteriously malfunctioned during the beating, though Louise's pained cries echoed through the maintenance corridor. Word spread quickly among the passengers. Whispers of violence, betrayal, and justice. Lines were drawn between those who supported Terrence's righteous vengeance and those who feared his methods. That night, Terrence stood alone on the deck, watching the stars wheel overhead. Shauna joined him, her presence now familiar. Are you satisfied? She asked quietly. Not yet. Terrence didn't look away from the horizon. They haven't lost everything yet, and when they do, then justice will be served. In the ship's medical bay, Luis nursed his injuries while Beverly paced their suite, jumping at shadows. Their paradise had become a prison, their love affair a trap, and their tormentor was just warming up. Chapter 7. The Unraveling. Terrence sat in his suite, finger hovering over the send button. On his screen, the video of Beverly and Luis's trapped deck confrontation waited to be released. Their raw confessions about murder plots and betrayal, perfectly captured in high definition. Do it, Shauna urged from the doorway. They deserve what's coming. The video went out to a carefully curated list. Influential passengers, journalists, socialites who live for scandal. Within hours, Beverly couldn't walk 10 feet without encountering hostile stares and whispered conversations. At breakfast, a group of women stood up and moved tables when she approached. The waiter's professional smile turned cold as he served her coffee. They know, Beverly whispered to Luis over the phone. Everyone knows. Stay calm, Luis replied from the medical bay, still recovering from Terrence's beating. It's just a video. Just a video? They heard us discussing murder, insurance fraud, your sister's illegal operations. In the corridor outside her suite, two elderly passengers pointed and muttered as she passed. Disgraceful, one said loudly. Planning to kill her own husband. Beverly rushed into her room, slamming the door. Her phone buzzed with messages from friends back home. The video had spread beyond the ship. Shauna confronted Terrence in his suite. Releasing that video crossed a line. Did it? Terrence's voice remained steady. Or did they cross the line when they plotted my death? This isn't just revenge anymore. You're destroying their entire lives. That's the point. He turned to face her. They tried to take everything from me. Now I'm returning the favor. Hal and Ethel attempted one final intervention. They cornered the ship's captain in his office, checkbook in hand. Name your price, Hal pleaded. Just stop these rumors from spreading. Captain Roberts shook his head. I have no control over passenger communications, Mr. Springer. And even if I did, the legal liability. We'll sign whatever you want. Ethel clutched his arm. Please, our family is falling apart. Perhaps you should have considered that before enabling adultery and fraud aboard my vessel. The captain stood. Now, if you'll excuse me. Marissa Lutz made her move during a scheduled port stop. She'd bribed a local water taxi driver to whisk her away before anyone noticed. But as she approached the dock, two Port Authority officers stepped forward. Ms. Lutz, one held up a badge. We need you to come with us. There must be some mistake. No mistake. We received an anonymous tip about forged documents and insurance fraud. Very detailed tip. From his balcony, Terrence watched Marissa being led away in handcuffs. Another piece removed from the board. Beverly found him later in a secluded corridor. Her designer clothes hung loose on her frame, dark circles beneath her eyes. You've won, she whispered. You've taken everything. What more do you want? Everything. Terrence's laugh held no warmth. You still have your freedom. For now. I never loved Luis, Beverly blurted out. I was lonely. You were always working, always distant. So, you decided murder was the answer? He stepped closer, making her shrink back. Don't pretend you're the victim here. I saw the insurance policy. I read your emails planning my convenient accident. That was Luis's idea, and you went along with it. Just like you went along with stealing from our accounts. Tell me, how long have you been embezzling money for your little escape plan? Beverly's face drained of color. How did you? I know everything. His voice dropped to a whisper. And now, so does everyone else. Eric approached Terrence in the ship's gym, determination in his stance. I want to help. Haven't you helped enough? Terrence continued his punishing workout. Help you. Beverly's been moving money around. I saw the transfers while I was covering for her. I can prove where it went. Terrence stopped studying his brother. Why now? Because I was wrong. Eric met his gaze. I chose the wrong side. Let me make it right. Together, they traced Beverly's financial web. Hundreds of thousands siphoned from joint accounts, routed through shell companies, hidden in offshore holdings. Terrence's lawyer received everything, expediting divorce proceedings. A restraining order followed, freezing Beverly's access to their remaining assets. The captain's dinner provided the perfect stage for the final confrontation. Beverly, desperate to salvage some dignity, confronted Terrence publicly. "You orchestrated all of this," she shouted across the dining room. "The accidents, the sabotage, the video. You're trying to destroy me." Terrence calmly set down his wine glass. "Interesting accusation from someone who planned to collect my life insurance." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Beverly stumbled back. "Oh yes," Terrence continued, his voice carrying. "Should I share the policy details? The forged medical records? The planned accident at sea? Or perhaps your embezzlement records would interest our fellow passengers more? You're lying. Like you lied about working late? Like you lied about the cruise? Like you lied about loving me?" He stood, commanding the room. "The difference is I have proof." Beverly fled the dining room in tears while Luis watched helplessly from his corner table, face still bruised from Terrence's beating. In their suite, Beverly attacked her reflection, smashing the mirror as Luis tried to restrain her. "We've lost everything," she screamed. "My reputation, my money, my life, it's all gone. We can rebuild." "Rebuild what?" "He owns all of it now. The truth, the lies, our future. We're finished." Outside their door, Terrence recorded everything. Each broken sob, each admission of defeat, music to his ears. As Act Two drew to a close, Beverly and Luis's paradise had become their hell. Terrence stood at the helm of their destruction, his revenge nearly complete. The final act would strip away their last shreds of dignity, leaving nothing but the bitter ashes of betrayal. Chapter 8: Redemption and Reckoning. The final day aboard the Oceanic Majesty dawned with an air of finality. Terrence stood in his suite, watching footage of Beverly's public meltdown spread across social media. His phone buzzed with updates from his lawyer. Divorce papers ready, assets secured, restraining orders in place. Shauna found him there, contemplating his victory. Was it worth it? Ask me again when they're escorted off this ship in disgrace. He turned to face her. Having second thoughts about helping me? No. She moved closer. But I need to tell you something. Kenny Blake hired me. Terrence's expression hardened. My best friend. He was worried you'd do something drastic after discovering Beverly's betrayal. Asked me to watch over you. She met his gaze steadily. But somewhere along the way, this stopped being just a job. Why tell me now? Because you deserve the truth. Unlike them, I won't betray your trust. A knock interrupted them. Hal and Ethel stood outside, their faces drawn with exhaustion. We were wrong, Hal said without preamble. About everything. We should have told you about Beverly, Ethel added. Should have stopped her before it went this far. Now you want forgiveness? Terrence's voice dripped contempt. We want a chance to make it right, Hal pressed. We're your parents. Let us try to fix what we broke. Terrence studied them, seeing the toll his revenge had taken. You chose Beverly over your own son. That doesn't get fixed with an apology. Then tell us how, Ethel pleaded. Tell us what we need to do. Prove it. His words cut like knives. Show me loyalty means something to you. Otherwise, stay out of my life. Security escorted Beverly and Luis off the ship separately. Beverly's designer luggage had been replaced with a simple duffel bag, all she could carry of her former life. Luis limped behind two guards, his face still bearing Terrence's marks. Mr. Phillips? A member of the ship's security team approached. Ms. Lutz wishes to speak with you before transfer to local authorities. Marissa sat handcuffed in the security office, her professional facade cracked. I want to make a deal, she said as Terrence entered. A deal? He raised an eyebrow. You're in no position to negotiate. I have evidence. About Luis's other schemes, other women he's manipulated. Beverly wasn't the first. And in exchange, put in a word with the prosecutor. I'll testify against Luis. Tell them everything. How noble of you to betray your brother. Terrence's smile held no warmth. Must run in the family. The ship's lawyer presented Terrence with final divorce documentation. Using the evidence gathered during the cruise, he crafted an airtight case. Beverly would receive nothing. No alimony, no property, no dignity. The life insurance policy? Terrence asked. Invalidated due to proven fraudulent intent. We've also notified relevant authorities about the conspiracy. Terrence signed with flourish, ending his marriage as decisively as Beverly had ended her loyalty. Eric found him afterward in the ship's bar. I just saw Beverly leaving. She looked broken. Terrence sipped his whiskey. Good. I underestimated you, brother. Eric signaled for a drink. Never thought you had this kind of ruthlessness in you. You mean when I was working 80-hour weeks, trying to build something? Terrence's voice hardened. While you were helping my wife plan her escape? I was weak, Eric admitted, desperate for any chance at success. Beverly promised connections, opportunities, and now I know what real strength looks like. Eric raised his glass. To my brother, the man who taught me never to cross him. Shauna suggested a private ceremony, burning the physical remnants of his marriage. On a secluded portion of deck, Terrence lit the first photograph. I thought this would feel different, he mused, watching their wedding picture curl into ash. Revenge never feels quite like we expect, Shauna replied. But it can clear the path for something new. Her hand found his as the flames consumed his past. For the first time since discovering Beverly's betrayal, Terrence felt the weight lift slightly from his shoulders. In his suite, he made a final call to Kenny Blake. You hired Shauna to watch me. A pause. I was worried about you, man. Next time, trust me to handle things my way. There was never any doubt about that. Kenny chuckled. I just wanted to make sure you had backup. The ship's staff began preparing for the next cruise, erasing traces of the drama that had unfolded. But whispers would remain. Tales of betrayal, revenge, and justice served cold. Terrence packed his bags with a sense of completion. His enemies lay scattered, Beverly stripped of wealth and status, Luis facing criminal charges, Marissa in custody, his parents learning harsh lessons about loyalty. Ready to disembark? Shauna asked from the doorway. Almost. He looked around the suite that had served as his command center. Just savoring the moment. And are you satisfied? Now that you've taken everything from them? Ask me again when we're home. But his smile suggested he already knew the answer. As night fell on the oceanic majesty, Terrence stood at the rail one last time. Behind him lay the wreckage of betrayal, but ahead lay possibilities he hadn't considered since discovering Beverly's treachery. Tomorrow they would dock, and his revenge would be complete. But tonight, he allowed himself to acknowledge the cost, and decide it had been worth paying. Chapter 9. A New Beginning. 6 months after the cruise, Terrence stood before a crowd of architecture students, his latest project displayed on screens behind him. The design showed a stunning rehabilitation center, a place for healing, but with subtle elements of strength and protection woven into its structure. Pain can be transformed, he told his audience, into steel, into stone, into something unbreakable. The project had already won 3 international awards. Critics praised its innovative blend of therapeutic spaces and fortress-like security, a reflection of its creator's journey. In his office afterward, Shauna brought him the latest updates on his former adversaries. Beverly lost another job, she reported. 4th one since the cruise. Seems no one wants to hire someone with her reputation. Terrence continued reviewing blueprints. And Luis, still in prison. The evidence Marissa provided ensured a lengthy sentence. His other victims came forward. Seems you weren't the first husband he targeted. Marissa, serving community service and probation in exchange for her testimony. She's working with fraud prevention programs now. Terrence nodded, satisfaction in his expression. Their fall from grace continued exactly as he'd planned. His phone buzzed, Hal and Ethel, asking to meet. Over the months, they'd proven their commitment to rebuilding trust. Small steps, each one earned through actions rather than words. They're volunteering at that youth center you designed, Shauna noted. 3 days a week, trying to prove something, succeeding? Terrence's slight smile answered her question. His parents had chosen their path to redemption, not through excuses, but through consistent demonstration of loyalty. Eric burst into the office, waving a script. You'll never believe it. That project we collaborated on? The one about betrayal and justice? Netflix wants it. The brothers had channeled their experiences into a screenplay. Eric's acting background combined, creating something unique. They're calling it a psychological thriller, Eric continued excitedly. Want to start production next month? As long as they keep the original ending, Terrence insisted. No softening the consequences. Are you kidding? The producers love how ruthless it is. Said it's refreshingly honest about revenge. News of Beverly reached them through various channels. She'd tried starting over in 3 different cities, but her past followed like a shadow. The video from the cruise resurfaced whenever she made progress. Job applications mysteriously failed. Social circles rejected her. I heard she's living in some rundown apartment, Eric reported. Working retail under a different name. She tried contacting your lawyer again, Shauna added. Begging for a settlement revision. Let her beg. Terrence's voice held no pity. She chose her path. His ruthlessness had become legendary in certain circles. Business competitors treated him with wary respect. Social connections valued his loyalty, while fearing his capacity for retribution. The memoir practically wrote itself. Price of Betrayal hit bestseller lists within weeks of release. Readers resonated with its unflinching look at consequences and justice. They want you to speak at next month's business conference, Shauna said, checking a schedule. Topic: Building Success Through Strength. Ironic. Terrence traced the skyline he'd helped shape. They used to call me cold, too focused on work. Now, they want to learn my methods. His reputation had transformed from dedicated architect to someone more complex, brilliant, but dangerous when crossed. The architecture world buzzed with stories of both his designs and his decisive handling of betrayal. The invitation to speak aboard the Oceanic Majesty arrived with subtle irony. The ship's operators wanted him to share his story where it had unfolded. Perfect symmetry, he told Shauna. Ending where it began, standing on that familiar deck, addressing a rapt audience. Terrence felt no nostalgia, only satisfaction. He'd transformed tragedy into triumph, weakness into strength. Success isn't just about building, he concluded his speech. Sometimes it's about demolition, removing what's corrupt to create something stronger. Afterward, Shauna surprised him with 2 tickets. Not for another cruise, but for a cross-country road trip. Time to write a new chapter, she suggested. One without ghosts. Terrence studied the tickets, then her. Their relationship had evolved from handler to partner, built on a foundation of shared understanding and absolute loyalty. A fresh canvas, he agreed, but keeping the lessons. They drove away from the port, leaving behind the scene of his greatest battle. Beverly's destruction had been complete, financial, social, professional. Luis's imprisonment served as warning to others who might attempt similar schemes. His parents and brother had learned the price and value of loyalty. In the car, Shauna pulled up plans for their next project, a series of secure living complexes designed to protect what mattered most. Ready to build something new? She asked. Terrence smiled, his expression holding both triumph and possibility. The past lay conquered behind them, and ahead stretched a future built on strength, justice, and unwavering determination. His revenge had cost him nothing he valued and gained him everything he deserved. Looking ahead, he knew he'd do it all again, exactly the same way. Let's begin, he said, accelerating into their future, leaving the ashes of betrayal far behind. Epilogue. 10 years later, Terrence Phillips stood atop the Phillips Tower, his newest architectural achievement dominating the city skyline. At 50, his presence commanded even more respect than a decade ago. Silver touched his temples, but his eyes retained their penetrating intensity. The Beijing contract just came through, Shauna Phillips announced, joining him at the window. Their marriage 5 years ago had surprised no one. They'd built an empire together, founded on unwavering loyalty and shared strength. Good. Terrence reviewed the documents on his tablet. The Chinese admire our security innovations. His firm, Phillips Architectural Solutions, had revolutionized the industry by integrating advanced security systems into elegant designs. Their signature projects, dubbed Beautiful Fortresses by architectural magazines, protected clients while exhibiting stunning aesthetics. The story of his revenge had become business legend, taught in management schools as a case study in consequences. His memoir, Price of Betrayal, had spawned 3 editions and a documentary series. Young executives studied his methods, learning that true power came from unflinching resolution. Beverly's latest appeal was denied, Shauna mentioned, pulling up the court documents. She tried claiming emotional distress again. Beverly Walker, she'd returned to her maiden name, lived in a small apartment in Detroit, working as a retail clerk. Her attempts to rebuild had failed consistently. Job applications mysteriously rejected, social connections severed, doors closed before she could enter. Terrence's network ensured her past followed her everywhere. The press still reached out for interviews occasionally, offering substantial sums. She declined them all, perhaps finally learning discretion. Her last known photo showed a woman aged beyond her years, haunted by consequences. Louis Craig wouldn't see freedom for another decade. His prison sentence had expanded when more victims came forward, other wealthy men's wives he'd seduced and defrauded. Inmates whispered about his frequent nightmares, how he'd wake screaming about being trapped on a cruise ship. Marissa's fraud prevention program is expanding. Shauna continued her update. She's speaking at conferences now, warning about insurance scams. Marissa Lutz had transformed her experience into a legitimate career, helping companies identify and prevent fraud schemes. She never mentioned her brother or her own role in Beverly's plot. Smart woman, she learned the value of staying in Terrence's good graces. The elevator chimed. Eric strode in, still handsome at 45, his acting career flourishing after the success of Ocean of Lies, the film based on their cruise ship saga. Ready for the foundation meeting? He asked, straightening his tie. The Phillips Family Foundation, their philanthropic arm, focused on supporting victims of financial fraud and betrayal. Almost. Terrence signed several documents. How's the new production? Amazing. Studios are fighting over the rights. Eric had leveraged his experience into a niche, producing psychological thrillers about justice and retribution. They love how we never soften the endings. Hal and Ethel's dedication to redemption had proven genuine. Now in their 70s, they ran the Foundation's community outreach programs, helping young people understand the importance of loyalty and consequences. Your parents called, Shauna mentioned. The youth center's 10th anniversary celebration is next month. They want you to speak? Terrence nodded. He'd forgiven his parents, not out of weakness, but because they'd earned it through years of consistent loyalty. They'd never repeated their mistake of choosing others over family. Kenny Blake remained his closest friend, their bond strengthened by Kenny's foresight in hiring Shauna to watch over him during the cruise. He now headed Phillips' security division, overseeing the protective aspects of their architectural designs. The Oceanic Majesty is being decommissioned, Shauna noted, reading from her tablet. They want to know if we're interested in designing its replacement. Terrence smiled at the irony. Submit a proposal. I have some ideas about improving their security systems. His reputation had grown mythic in certain circles. Business competitors treated negotiations with extreme caution, knowing his capacity for calculated response to any slight. Social climbers sought his approval while fearing his attention. Roman cybersecurity team flagged something interesting. Shauna pulled up another report. Someone tried accessing our old files about Beverly. IP address traces back to her son. Beverly's marriage to a local manager had produced one child, but the boy showed his mother's manipulative traits early. Terrence kept tabs on them both, a reminder that vigilance never expired. The Phillips Institute of Architecture, his prestigious training program, taught more than design. Students learned about integrity, consequences, and the price of betrayal. His annual lecture on architecture of power always drew overflow crowds. The Dubai project needs your approval, Shauna reminded him. Their latest venture would create a secure compound for international diplomats, beautiful, impregnable, and fitted with state-of-the-art surveillance. Send it to legal first, Terrence replied. I want the loyalty clauses ironclad. Their marriage operated on absolute trust, strengthened by shared understanding of human nature. Shauna's strategic brilliance complemented his architectural vision. Together, they built an empire that celebrated strength while punishing betrayal. The Phillips name now represented more than architecture. It stood for unwavering principles executed. Their residential complexes attracted clients who valued both luxury and security. People who understood that protection came from strength. Gilberto Craig called, Shauna mentioned, the cruise line's entertainment director. He's retiring, wants to thank you for the most memorable voyage of his career. Terrence remembered the man's help during his revenge. He'd rewarded that loyalty with exclusive contracts for all his company's events. Another example of his philosophy: allies prospered while enemies perished. Their personal life reflected similar principles. No staff entered their penthouse without thorough screening. Security systems, designed by Terrence himself, protected their privacy. Trust was earned, never given. The autobiography's publisher wants to release a 10th anniversary edition, Shauna said. They're offering 7 figures. Include the aftermath chapter, Terrence decided. Let people see the long-term consequences. Those consequences had rippled through society. Other betrayed spouses sought his advice, learning that revenge required patience and precision. Business schools studied his methods. Psychologists analyzed his strategic brilliance. The Phillips Towers observation deck offered views across the city he'd helped shape. Buildings bearing his firm's signature designs stood like sentinels. Beautiful, but formidable, just like their creator. Your 3 o'clock is here, Shauna checked her schedule. Another consultation about spousal betrayal. These meetings had become regular occurrences. People sought his guidance on handling treachery, drawn by his reputation for decisive action. He chose his clients carefully, accepting only those who understood that mercy without justice was weakness. Their children, twin boys aged 3, were being raised with the same principles. The Phillips family name would continue, carrying forward its legacy of strength and consequence. The cruise ship story is trending again, Shauna noted. Someone posted old footage of Beverly's meltdown in the dining room. Even a decade later, the story fascinated people. How one man had orchestrated such complete retribution, transforming personal betrayal into professional triumph. The footage served as warning and instruction. Betrayal carried costs that time couldn't erase. Terrence's influence extended beyond architecture. Corporate leaders sought his input on handling disloyalty. Security firms studied his methods. Law enforcement quietly consulted him about complex frauds. The Phillips Empire, as media dubbed their operations, encompassed architecture, security, entertainment, and education. Each division reinforced their core philosophy: success built on strength, protection through power. Your brother's new film starts production next month, Shauna reminded him. He wants to know if you'll consult on the architectural aspects. Eric had flourished in their rebuilt relationship, his artistic talents finding perfect expression in stories about justice. The brothers' collaboration produced works that never flinched from truth. Betrayal earned destruction, no matter the cost. Their annual family gathering stood as testament to lessons learned. Hal and Ethel, proud but humbled, watched their son's continued rise. Eric brought his own success to the table. Loyalty, once broken but rebuilt stronger, bound them together. Beverly's continued descent served as counterexample. Her attempts at redemption met consistent failure, not through active malice, but through the natural consequences of her choices. The world remembered her crimes and judged accordingly. The Foundation's new shelter opens next week, Shauna said. They want you to make some remarks about rebuilding after betrayal. The Phillips Family Foundation had helped hundreds rebuild their lives after betrayal, but only those who accepted responsibility and demonstrated change. No support for the unrepentant, no mercy for the manipulative. Their empire stood as proof that revenge, properly executed, could create instead of merely destroy. Each building, each project, each success stood on foundations of unwavering principle. Time for the board meeting. Shauna gathered her tablets. They're voting on the Asian expansion. Terrence took a final look at his city before heading to the conference room. 10 years had proven him right. Strength required vigilance, success demanded resolve, and betrayal always carried its price. His legacy would endure in steel and stone, in lessons taught and consequences demonstrated. The world had learned what Beverly discovered too late, that Terrence Phillips never forgot, never forgave, and never left debts unpaid. The future stretched before them, full of possibilities but governed by unchanging principles. In their secure tower, surrounded by the empire they'd built, Terrence and Shauna Phillips stood ready for whatever challenges came next. Some called him ruthless. Others called him unforgiving. But all agreed. He'd turned personal tragedy into lasting triumph, creating something greater than mere revenge. The sun set behind Philip's tower, its shadow stretching across the city like a warning and a promise. Within its walls, protected by systems he'd designed and principles he'd proven, Terrence Phillips continued building his legacy, one unforgiving brick at a time. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your